cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Customer, clientele. I was broke, that was last year. Getting money like a cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Benjamin, nothing less. I was broke, that was last year. Don't change them. I never switched up. Been down since day one. Stay social. People change them. I never switched up. Social.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Kevin Cox. Welcome to another episode of Dope Black Thoughts Live. Hey, happy Black History Month once again. And thanks for tuning in to us. If nobody's on right now, feel free to hop on whenever you want to. Also, feel free to reach out to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We're on Instagram as well. You can also email us. The email address is on our Facebook as well. And pretty soon our website will be completely live. Matter of fact, I need to double check, see if our website is live, dopeblackthoughts.com. But check us out. We're out here. And hey, look, I'm feeling historic. I got on my Juneteenth shirt, even though it's not a Black History Month shirt, Juneteenth shirt, free-ish since 1869. This is June 19th of 1869. And this is the smallest month of the year. And look, there may be a trend. I may start a little trend of conversation here, but Black History Month is in the smallest month of our year, right? But hey, we got a month. And so that's kind of one of the first things I wanted to discuss as I, live on camera, look up more stuff that I just feel like running my mouth about, unless anyone comments. Basically, look, it's the smallest month of the year. Naturally, that's the one that they give us, right? Not to be pessimistic, but when we talk about Black history, we talk about a history of struggle, talk about a history of overcoming, talk about history of excelling at many things that we, almost anything that we put our mind to. And, overcoming more obstacles, be it by the government, be it by banking institutions, be it by housing organizations, be it by, policing, which is also considered the government. But the bottom line is we overcome a lot of things. And that's kind of one of the things that Martin Luther King said in one of his speeches: we shall overcome. And it's true, we shall. But I think our role here at Dope Black Thoughts, which is why, sometimes we take a little sabbatical, then we come back full force, is because there's always going to be something else for us to try to overcome. We got the whole Tyree Nichols situation. We're our community is still having conversations about and reeling from and recovering from the George Floyd situation. Myself being a former Colorado inhabitant, I'm still in almost weekly, if not monthly, or if not daily conversation. I bring up the murder of Elijah McClain by the police. The brutal beating and poisoning of Elijah McClain, which drive-by news consumers may have thought that he was beaten or choked out to death, but really he was injected with ketamine at the behest of the police, and died in the care of medical professionals. These sorts of things keep constantly happening. And this is just the surface level stuff that we actually hear about and that we know about. And meanwhile, the entire time we have stuff flying under the radar, the entire time, people not really having too many conversations about how many Black men were found hanging during COVID, suicides, outside in the public, and whatnot. And it seems to be, it's not just that if you don't know your history, it's you're doomed to repeat it. It's that history repeats itself, period. History is very cyclical, and it's very important for us to just keep our eye on it, know our history so we know what things look like, and pay attention, keep our eyes open. So, when something's repeating and something's happening again, or it's starting to rear its ugly head again, we can adjust our movements and, know how to move forward and know how to adjust, know how to react, know how to realign and recover. it's Black History Month, so I do want to keep it on the positive note, but I also want to be realistic and talk about our real world issues. So we've had the Tyree Nichols situation. Uh, I would say murder. And look, I'm gonna start off with a spicy take. Wow, America, I didn't know y'all could fire cops for beating and killing Black people. Oh wait, they're Black cops, right? Now they're Black cops. Now all of a sudden, hey, we got to get them out of here. I will never put up with that sort of atrocity. This is horrible. If these were white cops, I'm sorry to say it, 9 times out of 10, they'd be on administrative leave for 6 months to a year. Their job would be saved by the police union. Charges would not be pressed until all the information, all the facts come out, and the body cam footage would not be released for 6 months to a year at least, so they can decide, do I want to retire in peace and kind of slink away into the shadows, or do I want to try to keep my job and try to stay relevant and whatnot. This is the even when we get justice, is kind of what I'm getting at. Even when we get justice, there's some sort of an asterisk. So this once again tells you why we need DBT Live. This tells you why we have to keep doing this show, creating this content, and why I keep showing up, why our team keeps putting in this work, and looking at these stories and putting our 2 cents in. Why we keep, hey, contact us if you want merch. This is a t-shirt. This is actually the first DBT t-shirt that was made. We have hoodies as well. If you live in Colorado, you can reach out directly to Marcus Ivy on our Facebook, and he actually has stock on hand. But we can have anything printed up and made for you. But you'll be able to see all that on the website. But still, we have to keep doing these things, because I want you to know that your dope Black thoughts are a target. When you think about and you ruminate on and actually analyze things with your Black mind, somehow it becomes dangerous. Somehow it becomes counterculture. Somehow it becomes controversial. Somehow it becomes I already said dangerous. So this trend is, I'm not going to say it's never going to stop, but it's never going to be satisfactory until it comes down to a level where it's at least commensurate with these other communities, and keep in mind, now I'm in the LA area. So, I was a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Monterey Park shooting on a Lunar New Year. I happened to be visiting a friend of the family, like less than 30 minutes away from where those shootings happened. And passing through the area, literally passing through the area while these mass shootings were going, while the mass shooting one and the attempt was going on at that time. So these things are hitting close to home for me. It's constant. There's always something. And so I can't just point at, say, hey, look at just what the Black community is going through. It's going on in all communities. And still, it happens at a disproportionate rate in our community, because here in America, we are not white adjacent. So we don't get any passes. A few of us, if we're willing to sell our soul and we get on the mass media and talk negatively about the Black community, we become somehow white adjacent when we get into certain rooms and situations. But we all know, if the real stuff pops off, they're gonna get rid of you too. Even you Candace Owens, even you Hodge twins, even your Jesse Lee Petersons and Ben Carsons and whatnot. All these people like this, they ascend into these sorts of notoriety and become basically almost passing without passing, right? Because they're in the room with so many people, and they say, "See, look, I shook Benjamin Carson's hand. I'm not racist." But what sort of policies did you enact? How do they affect the Black community? Did that have an equitable or a non-equitable or even racist outcome? So we have to use our analytical mind and not be afraid to have these conversations. Hopefully we lead conversations a little bit. I'm not out here just hopping on live every time some stuff pops off, because that's stressful, and that's something we have to be mindful of in our Black community as well. Not losing our own composure, trying to, always reeling from another situation. And I think that's kind of what they're banking on, is that we're kind of fatigued. So first topic of discussion of just hopefully a thought-provoking discussion here. the video release of Tyree Nichols being beaten and eventually dying. Positive or negative to actually release that video to the public? What do you think? Now, I don't have anybody. Do I have any comments? Do I have anybody watch? I don't have anybody commenting or chatting right now. But if I have to play it out for myself and consider it on both sides of the conversation, let's talk about it from the positives. Positive, we need to see what they're doing to us, right? We need to be informed. We need to be aware. We need our radar to be fully calibrated and be sensing. Our spider senses need to be accurate, right? And we need to be slapped in the face and reminded, hey, listen, don't get comfortable. When this sort of stuff starts popping off again, we need to know how to move, and we don't know how to move if we don't pay attention and make sure we recognize that it's happening. So one, there's that. So then you have the negative end of it. Let's say that you feel like it's not positive that the video is released, because I don't know. I'm torn. So I kind of agree with both camps, and I kind of fall into the nuance in the middle. On the negative end of it, are we being desensitized purposefully? Is there an agenda to desensitize the Black community to the violence that's enacted upon us? Is it being shown to us and blasted all over the mainstream media? Because you got to think about it. Will they show a video of a dog being beaten and killed? And would they blast that on every channel? Would they talk about it for a week and play it up and say, hey, listen, the video of this dog being beaten to death is going to be coming out? I don't think they would do that. I think they would kind of want to censor that. They would say, this is triggering. We won't show you the footage. They'll show you all the way up to until it starts happening, and then they cut it right there. But they're not going to show you from every body cam angle and have a video breakdown in slow motion. And look, this is when that guy kicked the dog, and this is when the guy tased the dog, and these are cuss words that were screaming at the dog, and here's the dog yiping and begging for its life. I don't think they would do that with an animal. But for some reason, videos like this of Black people being beaten, shot, and killed, and choked out, tased, and injected with ketamine and whatnot do get blasted on our airwaves. So it makes me wonder, is there an agenda to desensitize us to the atrocities that's enacted on the Black community? And we have to have that conversation. So yes, I do think it's positive that we have our radar calibrated to recognize what's going on in our community. But I also feel I do get a little bit numb. I get a little bit numb. I think that George Floyd video kind of slapped me back awake. But then after a while, you just kind of, what do they say? It's like combat fatigue or what have you. The community PTSD of the Black community we kind of numb ourselves to it and I don't want to talk about that, because we got to go back to work. We got to go pay these bills, take care of these kids, pay this high rent, pay these high gas prices, pay these high taxes and whatnot. So, it's back to reality for us. So let me, stay prayed up and keep it moving and stay positive. Right. And that's the conundrum. So that's my first, question. Anyone watching, feel free to comment on that. Do you think it was positive or negative to have that wall-to-wall coverage on the Tyree Nichols beating, slash, murder, whatever you want to call it. So boom, there's that. Police brutality. What do we want to do about it? That's another question I have for you. What do you want to do about police brutality? I am of a certain age. I am from that age when somebody kept on bullying you, you had to give them what's for. We as a community at some point will have to make up our mind when we will draw a line in the sand and just say no more. We will have to stand up to our oppressor and do whatever it needs to be done to make sure that these things don't just continue happening recklessly. And there's no way we're going to be able to stop being discriminated against, et cetera, et cetera. But at some point, some sort of action has to be taken to show your bully that you're going to be the one that stands up and fights. And it makes you, what do they call it in school shootings? They call it a hard target versus a soft target, right? You just show them you're not a soft target. If you got to take an L, you take your L, but you're not going to. And when I say take an L, meaning you lose your conflict, you lose your verbal standoff, you lose your litigation or whatever. We have to be willing to take an L sometimes, So, but you can't stay neutral on a moving train. the way everything's going, the Black community is taking that L already. So I think at some point we're going to have to draw a line in the sand and say no more, which brings in the reparations conversation. And let me pull up what is going on with reparations in California. So as of right now, what I've heard is they've created a task force and they are creating proposals for reparations. People are calling me up talking about that we acting like we got reparations already or something. Like, oh yeah, y'all got reparations. Like, no, we don't got no reparations. The reparations task force includes a pastor, an anthropologist, a psychologist, and an attorney, as well as a state senator, Stephen Bradford, and Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer. The group is set to release an interim report to the legislature, by June 1st that spans 13 chapters and 600 pages. So what we're going to do is we're going to write them a book about what they owe us. The thing is, they already know what they owe us. I think instead of, well, let me stop. I'm not going to be negative about any effort that they're doing, because I've been on a task force, very similar task force. After the murder by the police of Elijah McClain, I was appointed by the city council to be on the community police task force to try to create a third-party oversight body of the police for the city of Aurora, where that murder happened, and try to figure out, a way that we can have policy and community come together in a body in a governing body, not the government, but a governing body with teeth over the police department, but run by civilians, hopefully by professionals and qualified civilians. So I don't want to poo-poo the task force, but here's my thing. We know what we need. We do not live in a kumbaya country. We don't live in a kumbaya economy. We live in a capitalistic economy. We live in an economy that runs on money. If you don't have money, you don't have anything in this country. You're not really allowed to just go homestead and find some land and move on with your life and just build your cabin and whatnot. So we know we're really having a money conversation when it comes to reparations. So it's like, how deep do we want to go with just pretending like, oh, well, we'll convene and we'll have conversations and we'll write you a compendium of 600 pages and it'll be 13 chapters. I don't like 13. There'll be 13 chapters of 600 pages, and we'll come to some sort of a recommendation that can be watered down and diluted. So let me put a pin in that, because I see Margot Holmes has a comment. Fair point, and that does feel really gross, doesn't it? It was necessary, but I guess I wonder why it was necessary after George Floyd. Why do white folks feel entitled to endorse or deny, myself included? That's a big question. That's a deep question. Why do white folks feel entitled? And you know what? I really feel like white people have to answer that question. They got to, first of all, let's figure out how we can answer that question, white people. Why do you feel entitled? Is there some sort of rigged system here? Is there some sort of thumb on the scales here in this America that's supposed to be a meritocracy? I heard the American dream was that you work hard and fly right, and go straight down the correct path, and you'll do well in life, and everything's going to work out okay. And if you're a man, you work 40 hours a week, you'll take care of that wife who can stay at home and take care of your 2.5 kids and your dog named Spot, and you'll have a house with a white picket fence, and you can write a little check for little Johnny or little Susie to go off to college. But in the America that I live in right now, you need two parents working. You're out of the household. You're not in the house with your kids. Your kids are in daycare. Hopefully they're being treated well. Hopefully they don't develop any mental health issues. And that's for white people. They're the first class citizens in this country. You need two people working in this world. The American dream looks like it's dead and gone. I don't know what America people are talking about when they say we're number one, blah blah blah, because there's a lot of this dream that's been shattered and destroyed and swept under the rug. So when we talk about that, is there a thumb on the scale, right? If there's a thumb on the scale, there might be some record of it. We might be able to go into our history and look at it. How would you do that? You would investigate what's been done to rig the system and to put the thumb on the scale, not do what Governor DeSantis is doing in Florida, banning AP African American Studies. When you look at it, these conservatives keep saying that they're for freedom, they're for knowledge. You know what? Don't ban speech. You know what defeats bad speech? Better speech, more speech. Let's have bad ideas come in, and then let's drown them out with good ideas. Let's not shut down bad people from saying they're bad ideas. I want to hear the good side of it, and let's argue them down. Okay, cool. So, are you saying, Governor DeSantis, that AP African American Studies is a bad idea? Let him teach the class. What's the problem? Give me a counterpoint. Go bring up some historical documents and drop that into your standard history class. That shows that, hey, maybe it wasn't quite as bad as what everybody was saying. Maybe some historical facts were misconstrued before. Go do some more research, Governor DeSantis. What do you have what's the counterfactual to the white supremacy, chattel slavery, and degradation of the Black American family, and mass incarceration complex, and the crack era that was fueled by cocaine, that was brought in by the CIA with Ronald Reagan's tip of the hat and wink of the eye, and also directed to be dropped into Black communities as released by your own said government. It's kind of crazy to me, especially being an 80s baby, growing up under Ronald Reagan. I watched people in my community fall down that road of addiction to crack cocaine. So when we talk about white supremacy, there's real and lasting stuff. Let's see. Looks like Margot responded again. She said, we don't need to see and make a comment to legitimize things on capitalism. You're right that some white parents don't have to work. Most do. Reparations are necessary and correct history. Incorrect history. Very true. So look, let's reel it back, because you know me, I'll ramble. Look, let's talk about reparations. I had a real juicy conversation at work with a brother, and he was talking about reparations, and I just asked, what does reparations look like? What does reparations look like? Because it's the real world out here, y'all. Y'all know we need money, right? Everybody needs money, and if anybody deserves to be given money, it's going to be the Black community here. If I go and check out my Native American brothers, I can see a few things, talking about scholarships, talking about reservations, talking about casinos, and yes, there are issues with the distribution and the allocation of those things, and there's still discrimination and whatnot. So I'm not saying that it's perfect, but we see tangible benefits given to them due to the fact that we're all aware of the history of what was done to them. So boom. So let's talk about it for Black people. What were we promised? What was told to us? 40 acres and a mule. Can you imagine if they gave us 40 acres apiece? Good goobly woobly. That'd be like 3 states. I ain't never did the math, but that's probably like 3 states. You know what? Y'all would be acting crazy if we got like 3 states worth of land. Y'all wouldn't know what to do with us. It'd be a wrap. I'm in LA. Imagine 40 acres apiece. In LA, we're billionaires. We're billionaires. It'd be trillions of dollars in property value, in the Black community. It'd be ridiculous. So you brought it down to 4 acres just because you want to be realistic. We can't bankrupt the entire economy. It's 4 acres. Billions of dollars in the Black community, just in this state, all over the place. Alabama would just, Black people would be gaining so much generational wealth. And the beautiful thing about land is you pass it on down to your kids, generational wealth. Keep it coming. Keep on moving it down there. And then you know what? Okay, let me hold on to this next point. So the next thing I would say is, okay, I like that. Let's get that land. Boom. So that's one idea. Here's another idea. Give us a mutual fund or some sort of a fund. Put it into the stock market. It's invested into the stock market. There's X amount of dollars. Now, the conversation needs to be had amongst the Black community, how much it should be. Should it be $5,000, $50,000, $500,000, $5 million? We need to have a conversation about where we put the comma and the decimal, right? We need an allotment of money per person. And I would say if you have great-grandparents that were Black or at least half Black, that's probably good enough. I don't want, love my African brothers, but don't move here and be of African descent and then start trying to get our reparations. It's a different conversation, right? But boom, you got great grandparents that are at least half Black. You got 2 of them in your family. We're gonna go ahead and pencil you in. Let's say for a round number, say 50,000 a piece. Put into a fund. It can be a college fund, a retirement fund, or you can pull it out and pay. You pull it out early, take some sort of a little penalty on it, and use it for what you see fit. But if not, you can leave it not in the cloud, but in the market, in the stock market, invest it into America. What that means is now Black people are contributing by holding on to their money. Our money's growing. It's growing for us. Our money's growing the economy. And then, like I said before, and the same thing with the land. We have a little something something. So the next time your George Floyd happens, the next time your Tyree Nichols happens, the next time your Elijah McClain happens, Black folks may say, you know what? All right, we're going to divest. We're not talking about hair products, brushes and wave caps and weave and wigs. We're talking about billions of dollars out of your stock market. Stocks are going to plummet. Or we could just divest for 1 week, let you see what 1 week looks like. It'll hurt. It would actually hurt. Black people would have to be on the street getting rubber bulleted. We don't have to be in the street getting pepper sprayed while we're having, okay, so a little bit of history. Mike Brown protests. 3 weeks were spent in front of the police department, candlelight vigils and prayers, singing "We Shall Overcome" and "Old Negro Spirituals" and whatnot. And then they started getting pepper sprayed and rubber bulleted. Then the riot broke out, and then the cameras from the mass media come out. Oh, look what the Black people are doing. Look at them. You see what you do, right? And that's the narrative that always gets painted. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going full Kanye West on it, but kind of a little bit, right? Like, because they show you what they want you to see, right? Here's, and we're going to get right to you. But here's the thing. Let y'all do that this time. We got our money in our fund, right? A lot of people pull something out, start a little business, send a kid to school, or do a renovation on a house, or buy their first piece of property and start building their generational wealth. But a lot of people keep it in the market and let it grow. Okay, cool. Y'all pulled that George Floyd again? Y'all pulled that Tyree Nichols again? All right, that's a bet. We're gonna yank that out. Y'all really gonna be feeling a little something, because we gotta talk to the country in the language that it speaks, and that's money. Because sometimes that's the only thing that matters. That matters about the situation is how much money it's going to end up costing the city. They're going to have those. And then look, I've been on the school board before. Sometimes a major situation happens with a student. I hate to say it like this. Sometimes a student, gets beat up, gets discriminated against, or goes an entire year without receiving their hours of special education, one-on-one services that they were supposed to receive, and we get sued. The district gets sued. And they're not really saying, oh my God, look at this tragedy. Goodness gracious, what can we do to help this kid? They're like, how much is this going to cost? I'm just being honest. That's the conversation we're having, because we walked in motivated to do the right thing. And sometimes when things fall in between the cracks, only thing we can really talk about is it going to cost more money to emergency buy all the services and blah, 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 and correct everything? Or is it going to cost more money to, just write a check, settle it out? And they'll just move on their merry way, go to someone else and do it privately. It always comes down to money. That's just the way America is. And unless somebody wants to, have that capitalism or some other system conversation, that's what it's always going to be. So we need this money conversation with Black folks. And thank you, Margo. The land idea is a very cool idea. What about union contract abolition? Okay. Now look, I just signed my Teamster card. I just got a new job working at the ports. I need more information. Love your divest idea too. Hit them in the pockets. Okay, so first, the union contract abolition. I need more information about that. I'm not sure, because union jobs, and look, you may just consider this as propaganda fed to us by the unions, but union jobs have historically raised wages in the sectors that they're in. Union jobs have historically been a ladder to the middle class for Black and brown communities also. Unions have increased wages, they've increased benefits, they've increased days off. The weekend was created by unions, but this isn't the early 1900s anymore, right? This is 2023. Nowadays, most of these unions are about as crooked as a roach leg. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. They do a lot of wholesome things, and then they do a lot of messed up stuff too. I've been involved with unions, with the Teamsters. Let me just be honest. I've only been in one union. I've been in the Teamsters. I've come in and out of Teamsters jobs, but I'm back a Teamster again. And I'm not going to front, they didn't really do much. They didn't really do much. They helped. The main thing I'll say that they did for me is healthcare. They managed some good healthcare for Teamsters. So when we talk about union contract abolition, look, I'll think about it if we start regulating or start coming at the police union the same way they're coming at trade unions. How about that? Because these police unions are out of control. How come these fools can get their jobs back after? Okay, back to Aurora. Elijah McClain put to the side. That was already outrageously. That was an atrocity, right? But they found a guy passed out on the street, drunk, in his cruiser. I can pull it up for you. I mean, if you're Margot, I believe you may be in the Aurora community, but if you're watching and you're not, I'm going to pull up Aurora PD officer passed out drunk. I'm pulling it up live. I'm doing it live. Found drunk behind the wheel. And I'm going to screen share it because this is what we're talking about. Passed out drunk while he's on the clock. We have to pull these things up for the sake of posterity. Put it into the record that one, I'm paying attention, and two, I'm not talking out the side of my neck either. Let me just click these little cookies things real quick, and I'm going to screen share it. So, unions have been corrupt forever. And protecting, yes. Yes, thank you, Marco. Let me go right here. Let me screen share real quick. Share screen. Now, I hate to constantly play the Imagine They Were Black game. Right? Where's this tab? I hate to play this game all the time, but imagine you're black. Here's the Denver Post reporting. Crime and public safety on the Denver Post. And this is in the date of this story. February 6th of 2020 is when this report came out. Why prosecutors say they can't charge the on-duty Aurora police officer who passed out drunk while driving. Medical paperwork shows an Aurora officer's blood alcohol content was 5 times the legal limit when he was found passed out drunk in his department car. He confessed to internal affairs investigators that he was driving drunk, and officers on the scene noted at the time he smelled of booze. But Officer Nate Meyer will not face DUI charges or any other criminal accounts for the March 26th incident because the Aurora Police Department never investigated the incident as a possible crime, and a series of laws prevents that evidence from being used at a trial. 18th Judicial District Attorney George Brockler said at a news conference on Thursday. If one of us had been in that car and not Officer Nate Meyer, do you think I would have been treated differently? I do, Brockler said. The controversy that followed after the case became public marked the final months of former Aurora Police Chief Nick Metz's tenure and prompted his second-in-command, Deputy Chief Paul O'Keefe, to renounce his plans to serve as interim police chief and retire instead. And hey, listen, being a member of community activists and whatnot for a solid 4 or 5 years in Aurora. Let me stop this screen share real quick. Being a member of the community, in community activists, I gotta say, look, this is our tax dollars at work, right? We paid for the defense for these knuckleheads. That's another thing about the way the budget works. We paid for the lawyers to make sure that he didn't get charged, because that's how it works. But they found this fool passed out. I believe the car wasn't driving; his foot was on the brake, if I'm not mistaken. But let's just say it wasn't. Let's keep it GP. Let's say it wasn't, right? This fool had the car was running, definitely 100% running. He was so drunk when they opened the car up, he reeked of booze. They pulled off his belt and his gun holster, and he didn't wake up. That's how drunk he was. That's next level. That's not just I had a few too many and I went to sleep. This guy was Audi 5000. So if you're that drunk Imagine you're a civilian, you know, you're out of there. You literally wake up in jail. That's it. That's just the end of conversation. And I know someone who's had a DUI, and it's $15,000 off the rip. I'm not saying in a direct fine for that much, but over the next couple of years of your life, you're going to keep on doling out fines, fees, courses, equipment, breathalyzers added to your vehicle, and blah blah blah. And I don't even know that he had to do any of that stuff to mitigate the damages that he could do in the community, such as a DUI, killing someone on the street, because they didn't breathalyze him and prove that he was drunk. They didn't breathalyze that man. They would not create any evidence that shows that he's drunk. And that tells me right there, boom, second, two-tier justice system, right? And I don't even care if he's white. What I care about is he was drunk. He was drunk behind the wheel, and the law should apply to him. All these conservatives should be 100% on board with that. This is old school stuff that's a couple years old. And Omar, he may have something to say about it, talking about this the Aurora PD officer that was found drunk behind the wheel a few years back.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I just jumped in, bro. We were running in from work, but man, it's just glad to see DBT back, man. Just glad to see us back on the air, and
yes, sir.
Up with the community. But what in particular about that subject, my good brother?
We were just talking about two-tier justice system, and just playing the what if they were black game. Quite frankly, I can't remember the entire train of consciousness that brought us to that conversation, but that was something ludicrous. But when you have major violations such as that going on in your police department, it just goes to show why you can have things such as Elijah McClain happen, and it's hard to get body cam footage. It's hard to get engagement with the community, real solutions. We talked about being on the community task force. You were on the community police task force with me, yes, as well, appointed by the city. We have to try to. One of the major things I was talking about at the beginning, Omar, was that I asked the question: is it positive or negative to have this video footage of the Tyree Nichols situation on the airwaves?
Oh, you talking about them people showing it?
Yes,
and the trauma.
Wall coverage of the video, and also the coverage ramping up to that point, saying that it's about to drop, and then dropping it.
There's no right way, and the reason why I'm gonna say there's no right way, because if you don't show it, then the community and rightfully so, the community be suspicious about whatever was handed down. But when the community can see it, there's some transparency there. And the hope is not to traumatize the community, but to be transparent about the incident that took place. And for example, if there was no showing of the video footage, then someone would say 5 black officers got fired. Why? That could be, why are 5 black officers getting fired? We hear this in other communities. There's an administrative leave. There's all these other steps. Why were they fired? So there could be an argument for that. But when you look at the video, you say, wow, these officers committed a crime. These officers killed an individual and murdered an individual and have to be held accountable for it. So now you know why the police chief took the steps that they took. But also, when we talk about mental health, we want to make sure that we prepare the community for what is about to be seen, and also level set. Let's think, yes, there were protests, but the family said before the video dropped, we do not want to see community violence, because that wasn't the nature of Tyree. I think it's Tyree. That wasn't his nature.
I'm sorry.
He was a peaceful person. He was a brother that was a skateboarder, a brother that just started, I think, a job recently and had family, and that wasn't him. That's the same thing Shanae McClain said. Shanae McClain said, hey, I want to see peaceful demonstrations, but at the same time, I want to see advocacy for systemic change.
Yes. I look, my whole tirade, I was on both sides of it also. because I feel like we have to have our radar calibrated. We need to know what's going on in our community, so we know how to adjust and react. And also we have to know about it to recover from it. We can't just have all this unspoken trauma going on and just keep leaving things in the shadows. That, the mental health of the Black community and whatnot. So I 100% agree with you. We need to see some stuff, but also, let's look at the negative repercussions of having wall-to-wall coverage of it as well. Just like just the numbing effect and the desensitization from it as well. But I agree. I'm on both sides of it. There's no right or wrong, like you said.
There has to be a balance. There has to be a balance.
Yes.
There has to be when to stop, when you can say, hey, if you choose to look at it, here's the link with the proper warnings and the proper protective factors in place. I would even say for each video, are there national mental health lines that can be added? Let's say lines, phone lines, links, so that if people are extremely traumatized by the video, they can immediately call someone and be able to have that type of service available to them after viewing the video. The reason why we see people in the streets is because they are upset. They've been traumatized over and over and over again, and they want to know when this is going to stop.
So I'm going to run back through these comments, and because a previous portion of the conversation I was having was, we need to talk about reparations. Reparations is a serious conversation. We live in a capitalistic economy. We can talk about land. Land in LA. You got a Black community here that if we received land that was promised to us, or land that could be newly allotted to us, you'd have a serious economic force, and they can impose serious economic repercussions when something like this happens to our community again. Then when we divest, when you want to build, when we divest, now you're going to think twice again. Like, oh God, we have to do that with someone else did something. There'll be a little bit. Now they'll have real training about using less than lethal tactics, real training about guidelines about how much force is appropriate and equal and fair and should be used. Also, the first point I made, because I feel like it may be a little bit spicy. I talked to someone about it before, and they said, "Wow, I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm there already, Omar." The only time I see anybody get fired for beating up a Black man is when they're Black.
There's some legitimacy to that.
It's so hard to see them they got fired. They press charges immediately. Hold on a second now, because we can have 4K footage of everything, and it could be. In the first initial example I was saying was if they did it to a dog, like it would get a quicker reaction, but we're not, there's a two-tier justice system, even when we get justice, is what I'm saying. So it's like, it's bittersweet. It sucks. It's good, but it still sucks.
So I'm gonna put on two hats real quick.
Talk to me.
First of all, I want to say thank you for those words. When I think about public safety, I'm just going to talk about public safety in general. Definitely, we need that accountability when it comes to our police department. Do you know I receive phone calls from people in our community that say the police is not doing enough to keep our community safe? And so you have that. You have that dichotomy, because on one end, you have the abuse by officers who abuse the badge. And I don't want to accuse all officers, because some officers are really out there trying to do amazing work. Just the other day, they showed on the news, officer ran into a burning apartment to rescue some folks. I don't know about y'all, but most of us ain't running into that burning apartment. Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pull out our phones and say, look at that burning apartment. And some people even go Facebook Live. Did you see that person jump out the window? Very few are going to run in there.
Listen, and fire is hot from a distance.
So they're running in with no protective gear, with their vests on and everything, to go rescue people. So
it's a bad man.
So on one end, I received phone calls from people saying there's not enough. People who said, my daughter has been missing, I have no updates. There are people who are saying my nephew or my cousin was murdered, and there's no detectives calling us and letting us know what the case is like and this, that, and the other. Then on the other end, I receive the phone calls that say, hey, you know what? These cops, we need to get rid of all of them. We need to get rid of the schools and things of this nature. And I think we really need to have a serious community discussion about public safety. And the reason why I uniform it under public safety is because when I began to look at the logs, for those who look at the FBI crime logs, for those that look at our state crime logs, look at the crime logs in Memphis. The reason why they put that task force in place was because the community was asking. Mm-hmm. We need something to reduce the crime and reduce the murders in our city. But they didn't ask for was the mess that we saw.
Right.
With our brother Tariq. That's inexcusable. Those people need to be held accountable. And then it diminishes the trust when we really need the police. Because now, do I want to call them? Do I want to talk to them? Or me and Pookie are going to handle this ourselves because we don't want to deal with that mess right there. And last but not least, let's talk about the incident in, I think it was Idaho Springs out here in Colorado, where the guy called the police and said, I'm having a mental health issue and just needed some help. And because I guess the communication wasn't right with the officers that were there, this guy ends up dead when he the one that called the police saying, I'm having a mental health situation right now, and then ends up dead. So we need to really look at what does public safety look like, what is best for our communities, and what does training look like for people who wear that badge. It should, once again, ongoing training every single day, because our people need to be people that have their best minds, their best spirits, and their best hearts when they wear the badge.
And guys, you know, politicos out there, all you people that are on one side or the other of the political spectrum, nuance is allowed. Gray areas are allowed. We are human beings. This stuff is messy. It is hard to get it right. You know, I wish anybody out there would not just go right along with the officer, go into the office and hear the calls. And then you write out a plan for how you would make it work better. You know, when you see something messed up, go actually find out what all they had to deploy to try to get that situation under control. It can't just be, I ain't worried about no police. They don't. It can't be that. It can't just be, nope, I back the blue 100%. No, there's problems in the office. There's problems on the street. There's problems logistically, and then there's, what do they call those? Dilemmas, moral dilemmas. You know, like what do they teach in a philosophy class? That train track dilemma is like a runaway trolley or something like that. It's going to run over a baby or 5 grown-ups or something like that. You have to choose which way to turn the lever.
Yeah.
You know, it's like sometimes there's these horrible situations where it's like there's no way to win. And this, we're talking about logistically. I'm not talking about, you know, who to shoot. We're talking about, like, do I send more people into this Black community that's giving me more calls, you know, or would they feel oppressed? Will people, you know, turn against us and not cooperate with us and stop calling us because they don't want any more police in the community, you know, and start dealing with the stuff their own, you know, or will it push criminals further into the shadows and whatnot?
I think this is where, and some communities are doing it well and some are not. I can't speak for Memphis because I don't live in Memphis. I can say that there are some law enforcement agencies that are actually meeting with the community and say, what's the best way for us to show up? Because here's what is being reported to us. Here's what we're doing, and there's a disconnect. Let's figure out how we both have buy-in into the public safety in our communities. Now, once again, everyone is not going to be happy. There are some people who want to see less law enforcement because they get a chance to keep terrorizing the community. And that's a real situation to discuss, because, you know, in our community, we ain't trying to snitch. We ain't trying to, we're not trying to see brothers and sisters go to jail. But at the same time, when someone's car gets stolen and they can't get to work, who's going to take care of that family? Who's going to recover that car? Or you running
in that stop snitching t-shirt ain't going to pick you up.
or you run a small business in that community and you keep getting robbed every other day. You want to see public safety show up and protect your business. Yes, you
Right.
have the cameras and you can say, hey, here are the individuals, this, that, and the other. And then the officers have the difficult job of going out to arrest those individuals. And let's say something like that doesn't go right. Then once again, there's all these different moral dilemmas, but there has to be buy-in with the community and the law enforcement agencies, and more importantly, accountability, which is why we need the George Floyd. I think it's the Senate bill for George Floyd, the public
Hmm.
safety judge George Floyd Act. It needs to be passed,
Yep.
and I think Colorado with Senate Bill 217 has sort of set a model of what that could look like.
Yep. And you know, it always comes down to education as well. People
Yes, sir.
need to know what their rights are, and some of what their rights aren't. Not necessarily what they aren't, but they need to know what's legal.
Yeah.
Being detained so that cops can figure out who's the bad guy. That's kind of a necessary part of policing. Like, I can't solve a crime if I can't even stop you and figure out who you are. And were you in this situation? Were you even supposed to be here? Like, if I had a conversation with somebody, we were watching a video. I was watching a TV show. I was watching Bosch on Amazon Prime. Love it. I'm like almost done with the whole series, but it's a crime detective show, and they show these real policing dilemmas that happen. And two officers went to a bar. They had
Mhm.
drinks. They were in civilian clothes. They were off duty. They had a few drinks. Probably shouldn't be about to drive home in the first place, right?
Mhm.
But one walks this way, one walks that way, and he's walking to his car, and he's kind of trying to get himself together, you know. And as he's walking, he sees not a black guy, just a young man trying to slim jim a Dodge Charger, just trying to slim jim the door open, and he's struggling with these, and he looks like he's kind of in a hurried manner, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Drop that. Let me see your hands." Right? And the guy's like, "What are you talking about? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Hey, let me see your hands. Just stop what you're doing. Let me see your hands. Show me some ID." And the guy doesn't move fast enough, so he starts getting belligerent with them. And his friends come up from around the corner with a real Slim Jim. Apparently, he was using like a hanger, but came with a real Slim Jim. And like, hey, here's the real one that they used to use back in the days. And it was their friends, the person that owns the car. They're all friendlies, you know. And this is a situation where the officer probably needs to back up. The other officer pulls around the corner and sees his friend with all the young people, and he gets out on the officer friendly mode, you know. And he goes, "Step back, you get on the wall," and blah blah blah. And he takes over the situation a little bit more stringently, and it gets out of hand. Now I can see, you see the dilemma every single step of the way, and the show is made so that you can understand how hard it is on one side, and you understand how it can seem like it should be black and white, but also there's so many shades of gray. And so I was talking with somebody about it, and they were like, "Why does he even need to say anything to that guy? He's not in uniform. He's been drinking. Why is he even talking to that person?" And I'm like, imagine that was your car, and your car got stolen, and then you find out that the officer walked right by, saw the guy slim jamming your door, and he didn't do. He said, "Well, you know what? I'm not wearing my uniform. I've been drinking." Right? It's a dilemma. It's not. It's not. He shouldn't. It's like, dang, but I'm drinking. You know, maybe the officer shouldn't be enforcing. Maybe he should have just made a phone call. Maybe should have told him to stop. I'm gonna make a citizen's arrest. Let me call someone else in here and don't get belligerent. Blah blah blah. But we're just showing that this stuff is hard.
I say it's hard, but I also think what are different ways we can look at that as a learning tool? So let's just say, hypothetically, he took a picture of the license plate of the individuals, and if the car ever come up stolen, boom, you got that there. Um, because let's just say the person locked their keys in the car, and now all of a sudden you got an arrest for disturbing the peace because you and the police officer got into it over something that's yours. Very similar to
Yep.
what happened to Henry Louis Gates when they said that
Mm.
he was trying to break into his own house. And it's like, this is his house. And things got escalated. And the next thing you know, he gets detained. This is a well known professor that does great good in the community and got arrested over something dealing with his own house. So for me, we have to begin to use common sense policing, number one. Two, what does customer service look like in law enforcement? Yes, I do know in certain situations you have to have a heavy hand when you're dealing with certain things. But if you pull me over for a minor infraction, do I need your attitude? Do I need you coming in saying what you doing in this community? It's none of your damn business. If there's something wrong with my car, either give me a warning, tell me the reason why you stopped me, introduce yourself, ask me how my day is going, level set, get into why you stopped me. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to receive that ticket and go on about
Yeah.
my business.
The punishment's built in. Write me the ticket. I mean, like, you're ruining my day giving me the ticket.
When you look at the Elijah McClain case and the recent case, that went from 0 to 100 with very little discussion, because they didn't see humanity in those individuals. What they saw, this is someone I stopped, and they're a perpetrator regardless of who they are. They're a perp no matter who they are, and I don't value their life. So from 0 to 100, because I don't value your life, I'm gonna come at you in a way that's extremely disrespectful and dehumanizing.
Absolutely. I agree with you 1,000,000%, Omar, and thank you for breaking that down so well. I mean, and sometimes it's not really a dilemma. Sometimes it's really y'all messing up, and the training needs to be through the roof, and then the accountability needs to be there after the fact as well. And that's another thing that's the main thing that I have an issue with, is the accountability isn't there until I see Black officers. Next thing you know, I see accountability. You know. So look, hold on. One of the comments that I was asking what reparations looks like, and this is what Margot Holmes said. He said the unions have been corrupt. Oh my goodness gracious, where's the comment? She said I was talking about land. You know, maybe that we should be given land. She said land is a very cool idea. I really like that. What about union contract abolition? I'm like, hold on.
You indeed.
I said, well, but then I'm like, hold on though.
I think there's an issue with labor there. I think we need to have some union representatives come and address some of these issues. But
look, I've been a Teamster for a while, right? I've been a Teamster. Yes, Teamsters, you know, look, back in the beginnings of labor unions and whatnot, they invented the weekend, you know, worker safety, ended child labor, you know, increased wages, and union jobs have, you know, historically become the ladder to the middle class for Black and brown communities, as well as white community, but just a strong ladder to the middle class. So look, hats off unions, historically speaking, but it's the year 2023, right? Now they got their hands in a lot of pots. Yes, a lot of people done got a lot of power in some trade unions and whatnot. Yes. Some of them about crooked as a roach leg. We can all admit some of them do a little bit of something that we don't really like. But and still, if you want to have a conversation about labor union contracts, let's talk about this police union real quick. Let's talk about this Fraternal Order of Police, because we keep on talking about unions, and we talk about welders and truck drivers and you know janitorial staff and healthcare workers and print staff and whatnot. Wait a minute. How come every single time I hear about cops getting fired, they can fight their way back in? You know, when it's something to do with a Black man, what's going on with the union there? You know what I'm saying? But if I get fired from my truck driving job as a Teamster, you know, I'm probably not getting my job back. I've heard like one person ever fighting their way back a year later, you know, in truck driving from a DUI or a failed urine test.
Talking about Black truck drivers, or are you talking about truck drivers in general?
Truck drivers in general.
Okay.
Because there's not enough of us in Colorado for me to have too much history.
because the comment was about Black officers in regards to the Fraternal Order of Policing and things of this nature. Have they made any statement on this and this, that, and the other? And I think there's a conversation that needs to be had. I think police unions need to do a better job in stepping up and saying there's bad policing, although we have to do our job in representing this person, but we got to say this is not in bounds with what we do. I think the community would appreciate when they hear police unions, and some people have done it, but for the most part, what you hear is an immediate defense of the officers. Now, the officers have a right. Let's understand this. Have a right. They're innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. At the same time, what you can say, from what we see right now, this is not in line with our training. and we hope to see what comes out either in a grand jury, what comes out in our investigations, or something like that. And I think those are the remarks that the community like to hear. And last but not least, Memphis has a different governmental structure where you have a strong mayor that's over public, a strong police chief that's over public safety, that doesn't have a civil service commission they have to answer to, or any of these other governmental bodies. So like in Aurora, you have to go through hell to fire an officer. And you have to go through, you can fire, make a recommendation for them to be fired, has to go through your city manager, can be appealed to the Civil Service Commission. I mean, there's all these different things that, and once again, these are protections that were put in place for a reason, but at the same time, it makes it difficult to get rid of bad cops, because the Civil Service Commission can overturn the recommendation of the police chief. And now that officer who may have a checkered past or may be a threat to the community is now back on the police force.
Exactly. And that's kind of hard to deal with, especially with the fact that the police chiefs aren't exactly the most rash individuals. They're not just all of a sudden up and firing officers left and right. So it's kind of crazy to see that.
Maybe back in the day, though.
Yeah, maybe. I can't remember it, so I don't know. But maybe there was a rash of chiefs just chopping heads off, but I don't remember it. So it's kind of, no, I'm not saying that it's bad. There needs to be a mechanism for people being able to fight their way back for a job. And, integrity needs to be in the entire thing. But I think the community would be, at least our community, would be a little quicker to give these officers their humanity back if they can admit that they're human too. Admit you're human and that you make mistakes and that maybe you didn't do the right thing, as opposed to giving me every excuse for why it was okay first. Maybe not necessarily in this Tyree Nichols case, but in so many other cases, every single thing was that we looked into ourselves, and when you know it, we found no wrongdoing. Every time.
We still don't know why this brother was really stopped.
Right.
The video picks up from when he stopped, and then it goes from 0 to 100. Can you imagine a police officer stopping you and immediately trying to grab you out your car, and the next thing you know, you being tased and pepper spray and pepper spraying yourself at the same time?
Yep. It's hard not to. Go ahead.
I agree. I think we do. I'm reading the comment, and it's relocating funds so police have more than their gun to solve problems. I think we need to have more citizen roles in law enforcement and public safety to help deal with a lot of the issues so that guns are not involved. We stay in a gun owner society where people own their guns, and it's a tough call, because you also don't want to under-resource the police to have to go. I always think about remember the bank robbery in California, and they had to shoot out in the middle of the street, and the police had to go to a local gun store, raid their store, so that
I'm gonna need that.
Like, I need that, because they were outgunned by the people who had just robbed this bank. So I do think for our calls that deal with our unhoused, our calls that deal with people who have a mental health crisis, domestic violence is tricky, because we see domestic violence is a whole nother area. But I do agree with what the comment that was just made. Can we reimagine what policing looked like where guns are not always involved? And where do we need to put those resources so that when it's a simple stop, like just what took place, although a gun wasn't involved, we have to understand, not all situations are police shootings. In this case, it wasn't a shooting. In the Elijah McClain case, it wasn't a shooting.
Exactly.
It was their devaluing their humanity. And the question is, we don't need people on the force who don't understand the humanity or don't respect the humanity in the communities that they serve. So yes, on one end, we need to figure out how to problem solve without guns and have public safety with less guns involved. And then on the other end, We need officers that value the humanity of the communities that they serve.
And this training, I mean, I'm wondering what the training looks like. Is there? I hate to have to say humanity training, but if you have 5 dudes on one guy, maybe we could say something like, no more than 2 people need to strike him. Or if you're trying to subdue him, one person go for one limb, everybody go for an individual limb. And if it's more than 3 of you, you probably don't need to strike him at all. Look, I've been jumped before. You know what I mean? It ain't that hard, guys. Like,
I've been
you
jumped
win.
too. Wait a minute, I've been
It's
jumped
5 of you guys.
and I ran and I've been caught. And wait a minute. So I've had all 3 scenarios, not all happen at the same time. So I've been jumped to where I didn't get away, and they seemed to, as much as I was resisting, they were able to handle their business quite well. There was times that I ran and I was successfully able to get away. And then there was times where I got jumped, where I was just able to hold my own. And it is what it is. So I will say,
experience.
I don't think there's a perfect science to restrain someone. We don't know if they're on a substance that give them a little extra strength or adrenaline. But what I will say is that in this particular situation, he asked one question that never got answered. Why are you stopping me?
I don't like that reluctance to ever answer that question. Look,
why?
I'm a little bit of a junkie. I watch a lot of these videos, and I hate it when these officers can't answer that question. The next question, and see, that's why I was saying, like detention is a necessary part of policing, but understanding your Fourth Amendment rights is a necessary part of policing. And the police, without the sergeant or the supervisor getting called, need to know when they're violating the Fourth Amendment right. If you cannot tell them what suspicion it is that of what crime you're suspecting of being a part of, and when does this investigation start? What are you investigating? Okay, has your investigation concluded? Because you can detain me if it's legal, if it's lawful. You can ask me questions if I want to answer, but if you don't have any reason to tell me what, am I free to go? Because that's the next question that we need to know is, am I free to go? Because I see a lot of these videos, they say, am I free to go? And they're like, yeah, but I just want to ask you a question. And the guy's like, have a good day.
If I'm free to go, I'm free to go. And the other thing is, once again, if you're trying to de-escalate a situation and the person has asked you 5 times, why are you stopping me? Why are you talking to me? Why are you detaining me? Now you're putting me in the catch-22, because if I walk away, now you want to add some other stuff to this. That's going to
evasion.
If I don't answer your questions, now you're getting frustrated, and then that goes into another debate. If you just tell me why you're stopping me, we can start there and begin to have a discussion. Hey, you ran that stop sign. I don't believe I ran a stop sign. I feel like I did a stop and I came to a complete stop. And that officer may say, no, I witnessed you. Okay, write my ticket so I can go on about my business.
Check out Margot. She said, when I pay for it, like we pay for our police force, I should be able to ask officers questions too without being dragged out of a car. True.
1001%. And that officer should be patient enough to answer your questions without getting an attitude and without making the situation a threat. Now, we have to also understand we got some community members. That as soon as they get stopped, they cussing the cop out before he gets to the car. But because that officer has an authority that can take an authority or a profession that can endanger a person's life, they have to be even more patient and even more understanding of what is taking place. Because if they don't, their end result can end someone's life. And I understand They have to watch for themselves, because we have to remember there are officers who were doing their job, who were providing great customer service and things of this nature. And unfortunately, they didn't go home to their families. We got to think about that too.
Absolutely. You see, like Margot here saying, if I pay for it and you piss me off and I cuss you out, many folks would say customer service wise, that's your job. I've seen footage of officers, white officers, pulling over people, white people, and getting cussed out the entire time. And G did, and what the F you writing me this ticket for? And they ball it up and throw it out the window. And it's like, sir, pick that up or you're going to get a littering ticket too. And they get out, G did, I can't believe you. And they take their ticket and get in the car and they pull off and they go home alive. It's crazy. But then Sandra Bland comes to mind. Outside of Prairie View A&M, where my brother went to college, you know, and it's like she didn't want to put out her cigarette. She didn't fight that officer. She was like, "I'm stressed out. I'm doing my thing. I'm moving across the country to come over here in the middle of. I'm telling you, it's the middle of nowhere. Go to Prairie View. There's nowhere out there.
I've been to Prairie View.
She just having a cigarette. And last I checked, it wasn't illegal. Last I checked, at least. And now they can't even give you 2 angles on her mugshot. You know, and swear she killed herself. You know.
What about during the protest and the white kid had the gun and they gave him water? Remember the white kid that was walking around with those? He looked underage, and he got a pass. I'm here to protect the police. I'm here to do this, and I'm sitting up here like, are y'all kidding me? And then this guy ends up getting in a situation where lives were taken. So
right.
So
here's my thing. Are you a cop? Oh, wait, you're not a cop? There's a curfew. We're getting everybody off the streets.
Why are you getting a pass? Walking around with a loaded assault rifle. At least say, unload your weapon. We want to see you unload your weapon. We're going to hold your weapon. And if you need a ride to get somewhere, because it may not be safe for you, we'll get you that. But you're not going to walk around in this community thinking that you're the Lone Ranger. Anyone, he did win the case. He did win the case. Yeah. So,
listen, you know, and that's why I'm saying I get caught up playing the what if they were black game. You know what I mean?
race is real.
Yeah, it's real. It's really real, man.
By the way, did we say anything? I know I came on late because I had like 5 meetings back to back, brother. So I apologize.
I know you did.
I don't want to second guess you. Did we say anything about we're entering Black History Month?
Yes.
We did.
We did. Yes. I promise I did.
We did.
You and me didn't, but
okay.
But
we celebrating and we celebrating that good brother who had the vision, Dr. Carter G. Woodson.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Juneteenth shirt, free-ish since 1869. I started off on and I was like, I want to keep it lighthearted and pleasant, you know, and then I had to go off into some current events.
How do we keep it lighthearted and pleasant? We talking about some of the darkest stuff that's taking place. I think we probably went there just a little bit. But if we're going to keep it lighthearted, if we really want to talk about just some
keep it real, Omar. That's it. Just real. That's it.
But this is what I want to say. There's some youth who are doing some phenomenal Black History Month events. I went to a presentation, Regina and I, my better half, we went to a MLK presentation that was put on by some youth or organization called YASPA and our youth branch of the NAACP. It was phenomenal. And they talked about the life of MLK. They talked about what are some of the current issues? What is the role of the youth? They had poetry. I just want to give a shout out to YASPA, Dr. Mackey, and my sister Gillis that's over there, Crystal Gillis that's over there. I want to say shouts out to our youth branch of the NAACP, our president Samara, and their advisor Shartasia. Man, when I say
Shartasia is an advisor, cool.
Shartasia Miller is their advisor, and we're about to start a college branch. So
there we go.
At the community, hope things go right. I don't want to put it out there. And brother, I'm gonna tell you why I'm full of joy. We just received a grant where we'll be able to help some future journalists, Black journalists and authors, where we will be able to train them and have them go through some projects and things of this nature. And Regina and her team worked on that project. So we'll be getting some funds to help some high school. I think high school and middle school, or probably just high school. I got to make sure I get all the gens right. But bottom line is, those future journalists, we can have a junior Dope Black Thought Group, and they come on here and just
Yo.
have they're able to take over the airwaves and do what they do. So I say that to say,
I tell you what, whoever wins, let me know. I'm gonna have them on and interview them about it. We'll talk about what it means for them.
well, it'll be project based. So peep this out, so they can pick their projects, bro. So we may need to think about a youth type of podcast on the Dope Black Thoughts, where these kids can show off and talk about the issues that's important to them.
All day.
Because we shouldn't be talking for the youth. Let the youth share and have a space to share what they feel their needs are.
Yeah, that's positive. Look, that's positive. That's lighthearted. Love that. That's, man, hats off to Yaspa. Janice Mackey. I remember her.
Dr. Janice Mackey is killing it.
Dr. Janice Mackey, yes sir.
I got to give her props.
Give her her roses. Give her her roses. Because
what's going on in Cali? I know I was there recently. When I was there, it was the unfortunate. Actually, the weekend I was there was when the first shooting that took place. Now, and I was only 15 minutes. My hotel was only 15 minutes away from that spot because I was in Cerritos.
That Monterey Park shooting.
Yeah, and I was right off the 605. You take the thing, you're right there.
Yep.
So, long story short, that was the last time I was in there. But what's the good news in LA? What's popping? What's cracking?
I mean, look, I don't know, man. I'm staying low key. I have to Google to tell you anything going on, man. Just for me, just been keeping it low key, keeping up with my family, just working, trying to stay uplifted and stay positive and keep moving forward out here. And wrapping my head around what it looks like this coming summer, trying to get these kids together and everything. Just family stuff, man. For me, I don't got no current events to update anybody on. Just trying to get ramped back up for because DBTs. We're here. We've been dormant for a little bit, but I've been aligning some interviews. I actually have an interview tomorrow with the gentleman. Just aligning some interviews to get going with Left Black, my individual show on the DBT network, and just trying to get it going.
What's the name of your show again?
Left Black.
Tell us about it.
Left Black, just my own individual political analysis show where I'll just cover politics, probably more at the federal level, talk about Senate, talk about, the House, the White House and whatnot, such as your Joe Biden controversy right now about his...
Time out. The hell with Joe Biden. I want to talk about this guy that got elected on a whole false identity.
Mr. Santos.
Time out. Then he robbed the vet of his money, and unfortunately, the dog died. I mean, this cat, you could do a whole movie on this cat and the way he has manipulated. Now, this is the crazy part. When we begin to talk about values, and people say we want to do all we can to keep him in office because we need to have his vote, but don't care about the character of the person. And
don't trust the media, because the media lies to you. Don't trust the left-wing media. The number one news company on the media is Fox News. And the people on the left, they lie to you. The lying left and blah, blah, blah. George Santos, an entirely different life. And I hate to invoke any Aurora, Colorado names, but I've heard of people who lived entirely fake lives.
Oh, really? Do we have people in Aurora do that? I won't mention no names. But with that stated,
it's Black History Month, so I'm gonna shut up on that one.
It's Black History Month, and we may be making Black History talking about that situation. But with that stated,
I kept my black card fully intact just now. I ain't gonna drag no brother right now, man.
So let me ask you this question. You have your show. When can we see your show? Will it just be when you have interviews? It's really not a set day and time. Can we catch you live, or will it be pre-recorded and uploaded? What's the deal?
Pre-recorded and uploaded, 100%. Just due to family pressures and economic pressures, just don't have the schedule to be going live all the time. Live is hard, y'all. I mean,
live is real hard. You see,
live is hard.
I had all these meetings and if it wasn't for the text, so I'm about to shut it down, eat dinner, and I get the text, you're supposed to be on. Oh crap, I'm supposed to be on.
Hey,
Last thing, bruh. This is important, very important.
okay.
Super Bowl. Okay, so let's
okay.
set the stage.
Okay, hit me.
You got Philadelphia Eagles that has a quarterback that has an amazing story.
Okay.
That started at the University of Alabama. Tua comes in, takes his starting spot. He saves the team. Tua comes back in. He transfers to Oklahoma, and I believe he gets them to the playoffs. Outside of the, I think they made it to the playoff tournament of the different bowl games. I believe they did. I could be wrong, but they were in a high-ranking bowl game. Then he comes to Philadelphia, and when drafted, people were saying Philadelphia made a mistake. You remember when he was drafted and people were saying that? They said he wasn't disciplined. They said he couldn't throw deep. They said that he couldn't manage as a quarterback. People were saying that. He had his first year, and then his second year, worked hard, and now his team is in the Super Bowl. Then let's look at Kansas City. You know, we have the story about Bieniemy not getting a head coach job, and he's the offensive coordinator for Kansas City. Brother. Then you have the quarterback who has been to what, the last 5 or last 4 NFC championships or AFC, NFC, one of them championships.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is going to be an amazing Super Bowl. Who you got?
Look, I
got?
gotta be honest, man. I ain't been watching. I ain't been watching.
Wait a minute, time out. Kevin. I'm about to fly. I'm about to hop on the plane, bro. I'm about to hop on the plane.
So who's in it again?
I'm done. I think the Golden State and the Lakers are playing right now. I think I'm gonna go watch the game.
Oh God.
I think I'm gonna watch the game. I think Golden State and the Lakers are playing. Let me pull up.
Is it the Chiefs? Is it the Chiefs and the Eagles? Is that who it is?
I ain't got nothing to say right now. I know you know who's playing, and I think you just don't want to say who you got. That's all that's about.
Nah, for real. I ain't been doing that. I ain't been watching no football, man. I ain't been watching no football. I haven't been watching much TV at all. I mean, it makes it seem like I've been reading books and whatnot, but I haven't been doing that either. You know what? I just been, you know, I got this 10-month-old. I just been family timing, bro. I don't know. I'll watch it. I'll probably watch it up to the halftime show. If I don't really watch halftime shows.
We should do a halftime show and analyze the halftime show, because I think is it Rihanna that's doing the halftime show?
Okay, whoever. I'm down.
I think Rihanna. Is it Rihanna that's doing the halftime show? I think it's Rihanna. Yeah, check it out. By the way, Lakers won. They beat the Pacers. It is the Nuggets that's playing Golden State. And in the third quarter is 78-77. But the Lakers won, beat the Pacers. All good. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, it's Rihanna.
It's Rihanna. So yeah. I'm wondering, would we think about doing a halftime show on DBT and just watching it with our audience and just analyzing what's going on at the halftime show, what we like, don't like. And once again, I'm not a person to criticize art, because first thing, I can't sing. Right. I'm a horrible dancer. And anybody that can get out on the stage and do that, I give major props. So I'm not going to be there criticizing. I may begin to just look at it and say, hey, oh, this is cool. I don't know what that's about, this, that, and the other. But maybe we should do a halftime show, something to think about.
Yeah. You can't really go wrong with Rihanna, though. You know what I'm saying? So like, we can criticize as much as we want. It's Riri.
Hey.
And also, Omar, I wish you would say something about Riri. You know?
Well, so wait a minute. You ain't got nothing to say about the game, but you gonna come up. I just said I don't criticize, and you jumping on me about something I said I wasn't gonna talk about. No way. What's the issue with Riri? I need to call your wife. That's what I need to do.
She hates it when I joke like that too. She hates it when I joke like that. But look, let me let me go back through some of these comments because Margot was steady commenting. One of the things she said was, "Want to do DBT as in dialectical behavioral therapy with DBT? Dope black." She said, "Dope black socks," but she meant dope black thoughts. But dialectical behavioral therapy. Hey, look, we're out here, man. I believe that's kind of what this is because for me, these episodes. That's why I love hopping on. It's cathartic for me. You know, we got to get it out.
I believe it's a space. You know, one thing that social media has done, podcasting has done, it's a space where you can come and speak your mind. You don't have to wait on traditional news where you really don't have a space to ask questions, a space to hear a narrative that you appreciate and that you trust. You're seeing a lot of people jumping into podcasting. That's because there always been a void. It was a newscaster and the philosophy of that particular news station or the culture of that news station giving you their narrative. And now I'm even enjoying some of the channels that we have out there. Cheddar News, a whole new station of looking at what business look like. And they really dive into people of color and the work that they're doing in the business. And what they got the ticket going down like CNBC. They're talking about all these different companies, but they're talking about it from a diverse lens. So I watch Cheddar News in my office and people be like, "What you looking at?" Cheddar News. Well, I got to see what my stocks are doing, bro. And
I'm pulling it up right now.
Oh yeah, I watch Cheddar News religiously. Or Fox has a black channel now that's online that I watch sometimes and watch periodically, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. You wouldn't think Fox would be putting out a progressive product, but it's a very progressive station. I think it's called Fox Soul.
Yeah.
I think it's called Fox Soul.
Yeah, Fox Soul. Yeah, look, Fox is a multifaceted organization. It's not all just Rupert, the mouthpiece of Rupert Murdoch. And, you know, we in the Black community, we fall susceptible to a lot of conspiracies when it comes around the media because we see how they lambast our community in so many different instances. But I mean, there's only so much energy for conspiracies. Also, like there's only so much time that people really have. And sometimes even people that do bad also do some good. So we gotta find once again we gotta find that nuance because there's all kinds of stuff going on under. Look, you know, some of Donald Trump's policies helped some Black people. You know, the brother I was having a conversation with about reparations, he was talking about he liked Trump because he came at governing from a businessman mindset. And I don't disagree with that. You know, he packed his executive branch full of Wall Street billionaires, Wall Street CEOs, as so did so many other Republicans and corporatist Democrats. So I'm not going to discount the business acumen of Donald Trump because I don't believe when you bankrupt a business that's because you're a bad businessman. I believe that it's a financial strategy that you use. It's a financial instrument that is looked down upon in our community, but we don't necessarily understand debt, right?
I can understand why a person would feel that way. And at the same time, I have concerns about their analysis of social programs that truly help our community. Whenever we take a business approach to things, sometimes the humanity is lost. And what I thought was lost in the Trump administration was the humanity, which ended up playing out that January 6th when you had the insurrection, where people more worried about who's going to be charged than that officer that almost got squished to death, or the officers that committed suicide because they felt like they wasn't able to protect the Capitol.
Or the 140 officers that were injured in total. There was officers that lost eyes and all kinds of stuff.
So it's difficult for me to align myself with someone who constantly says, hey, that was a revolution, that was this, that was that. And I ain't saying the person you talk to are saying that. It's just hard for me to align myself with those individuals when we don't look at the inhumanity that took place through his business mind of what he was trying to do. So I have a hard time. But I will say this. I got someone better than Trump better than Biden. And I think it's going to have a tremendous impact in our society.
Okay.
Prime time, baby. Prime
Deion
time is in
Sanders?
Colorado.
Are you kidding me?
Deion Sanders. What?
Fill me in, Omar.
Kevin,
Drop it on
I
me.
swear I am going to jump through. Prime time is the coach at the University of Colorado, Denver.
Oh crap! What? Look, I just barely watched the series just the other day, like last week. I'm not even joking.
He's the head coach and is really having a unique impact because similar to Russell, this is the fear. When Russell Wilson got here, it was all this hype. Hey, we got this quarterback, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other. Football is a team game. And Russell Wilson was on his back 3/4 of the time or running for his life. And they were trying to say, well, maybe we invested in the wrong quarterback. No, maybe you need to invest in the offensive line.
Thank you, sir.
So that when he's running for his life, I promise you, Gina doesn't even watch football. And Gina was like, why is this man getting tackled so much?
First of all, who's the left tackle? Fire that man. I played left tackle, and my quarterback never got laid out. Ever.
And then it became a question of, is this quarterback fit for Denver, and not looking at the other pieces? I say that to say they're hyping prime time up so much. Part of it is prime time. You know how prime time is. Hey, I'm walking in space. We gonna win this. We gonna do that. We gonna do that. But if the results are not what they are the first year, are you going to be now trying to abandon him, not giving him the support he needs, this, that, and the other? And that's generally what happens to Black folks when they step in these important roles. You only got that one opportunity to shine. Everyone else can have a million. We got so many white coaches in the NFL that has had, I don't know how many losing seasons, but able to keep their job or don't live up to expectations. And when it's a Black coach, let's look at what happened to the Texans. They had Lovey there. Lovey actually did a good job. And it was the last game, and if they had a loss, they would have had the number 1 pick. They wanted him to coach the team to lose. He won. Got fired. Because now they got the number 2 pick instead of the number 1 pick. Fired him. No, bro. So
the Black man literally can't win for losing.
That is exactly.
He lost for winning.
So I say that to say that I'm happy for prime time. Glad Deion Sanders is here. Was at CU Boulder. There's some great things happening at CU Boulder too. They just opened up an African American center. They had the grand opening yesterday. Dr. Relan Rabaka, who's doing amazing work, doing a great job. I met with some people over at Metropolitan State University, Dr. Benitez and Dr. Tatum, who's the provost, and they're doing some great work. I say all that to say that I just hope when we're doing Dope Black Thoughts, we also talk about some of the great stuff that's taking place. And there's some things we just need to talk about. Prime time coming from Jackson State, coming to Colorado. There's only 2.9% Black students at the University of Colorado of Boulder.
But just like with Ed Reed at Bethune-Cookman, there's going to be some people that are going to come specifically for him. So there's going to be a draw of Black students to University of Denver.
And along with that African center, so you have the center, prime time
players. I'm sorry, but yes, students as well.
Well, I'm hoping students too, because he is a universal name, and people may want to be like, hey, let's see what this is about. I'm gonna send my child there to major in engineering, and maybe some things are changing there on the campus, but you got 2.9% of Black students on the campus, and they're doing some progressive things to make it more attractive to keep the Black students in Colorado in state. And hopefully they choose Boulder. Of course, my favorite will always be two schools, Metropolitan State University and UC Denver. That's where I want to see them start at. And my brother at the community college, Dr. Mordecai Brownlee, who is kicking. Man, if you want to talk about a progressive educator, look at the Dr. Mordecai Brownlee over at
I want to talk to these people, Omar. This is where I'm at.
Tell you what, I will talk to Dr. Brownlee and see if we can get him on. Then, remember when we had my brother on, Amin Ra?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's about to open up an early childhood center called the Legacy Academy.
Come on.
So he's going to take everything he did at his school and now open up a preschool, kindergarten, early childhood center so that we can reach the kids earlier. And my sister, Dr. Cherie Montgomery, is the director of the center. Man,
I can't.
We
can't shake a stick at y'all.
This is the
Montgomery family.
This is the part you would like. And started his own crypto coin to fund scholarships for students.
Sheesh. You know, I love that.
He started his own crypto coin to fund scholarships for students. So his motto is, if you want to keep students in school, it's not so much a pay to play, but if you get them engaged in investing early, it can pay for their college. It can pay for other things that they need when they graduate from high school. And they have this investment, they have this coin that they can cash in and pay for whatever they need to pay for. And because it's a virtual coin, and if you're an investor and you truly believe it can help sustain itself and it's not tapping into state or federal dollars.
Yeah, and it can travel anywhere and it can be transferred into any currency international. So that's amazing. That's groundbreaking. I haven't heard of a Black school doing that. Man, hats off to your brother Amin Ra. Hats off to your sister Dr. Cherie. I can't say enough positive things about your family and also your pops.
Hey, man, Pops. Now, Pops is, Pops at that same center, he's going to be doing his own Saturday breakfast program. He used to do that a long time ago, where he's going to be just talking about politics. And my Pops got his own podcast. I was on it on Monday.
Sheesh. Yeah, I need to go on there too, man. Come on.
Yeah. Now. Yeah, so we were on it. We was on it Monday, and we were talking about just education. Dr. Rosemarie Allen and a few other folks were on there. But you know what, bro? I know we are way over there. I think we're just excited to be back. But
I know, right,
bro? I think we got to keep. We got to keep the tradition up. What is your dope Black thought of the day?
I mean, my dope Black thought. It's kind of a train of thought, Well, I just repeat something I said earlier in the episode was history repeats itself. So know your Black history. We need to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when these things come back again, we know what it is we're looking at, and we know what to expect, and we can move forward, accordingly. These beautiful things. We know what it looks like when Black excellence starts to peek its head up. We know what it looks like when we start to suffer new or old oppression. So just know your Black history. And we didn't get to get into too much historical Black events, but we can still propagate and help perpetuate knowledge of Black history, man. Let's focus on knowing our Black history a little bit more. Speak for myself, and just know it. That's just something that we need to get ingrained in our character and get away from the narrative of non-Black people and start getting our own internal knowledge of Black history.
Wow. Hold on, bro. Just as you just wanted to check into something real quick as we begin to close out and think about, you had something, you had me think about something when you began to talk about the historical point. First of all, we got to give credit to Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who is the founder of Black History Month, which actually started out as Black History Week. and during the week of birthday celebrations of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. So let's put
Okay.
that in perspective. And this was the man that started the first academic journal of they call it the Journal of Negro History, who wrote the Miseducation of the Negro, the Education of the Negro, who really laid the foundation on how do we begin to study trends within our community and how to be able to solve them with academics that look like us, that think like us, and understand our communities. So I want to give props to Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And the theme for 2023 is Black Resistance.
Okay.
The theme for Black History Month this year is Black Resistance. So I think we should be talking about, what does that look like? I think one of our next shows should be, what does Black resistance look like?
Yes, sir.
In 2023.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So
I can roll with that.
So since we wanted to add some historical, that's the historical. I don't mind the historical, this, that, and the
Professor
other.
Montgomery, real quick, had to jump in.
Just to let you know, we definitely gonna be gender neutral. We're gonna be talking about how our sisters who have contributed to the movement, the academic movement, the resistance movement. And I can tell you right now, it's a group that no one wants to be in, but the parents of those who have died at the hands of police. When you begin to look at the impact they're having on police reform and accountability, I want to give a shout out to them, although I feel bad that it had to get to this point for us to begin to see change.
Is there a name for an organization like that? Because I remember
I don't know,
like Mad Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
I don't think there's a name, because it's generally the parents that show up at the funeral or before the funeral and saying, I've been through this and I am here to support you. And they're generally in the audience, they're generally helping the parents deal with the media. Here's some things, some mistakes we made. Here's some things that we found that work. But it's a group that I don't ever want to see no one have to be a part of. But my Dope Black Thought is Dope Black Thoughts is back. Bam.
Boom. That's what I'm talking about. See, I need Omar Montgomery to come in here and help wrap it on up. Now this has been another excellent episode of Dope Black Thoughts Live. Everybody that's tuned in with us, everybody that watched this in posterity, thank you for tuning in. We love you guys. Thanks for supporting and at least giving us a good old like and a view. Share us. Check us out on Facebook. Like our page. Go back through our catalog on Facebook, YouTube. We're on Twitter as well. Go to patreon.com/dopeblackthoughts and help contribute. And if you know someone that's a content provider or a content creator or a journalist or writer, a production assistant, anything, send them our way. If they're anti-racist, if they're pro-black, if they are black and just want to know how they can contribute, they can hit us up, holler at us, and we'll see if we can find any way to have them help us, and what we can do to help the community.
And I thank all our allies, those who are not black, those who just understand the movement, those who rock with us, those who roll
just
with us,
pro-black,
those who stand with us. We just want to say thank you so much for sharing, being a part of this. Dope Black Thought is not just a podcast; it's a movement. So thank you for being here with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody. See you next time. Peace.
What is love? It's a drug. Let it rotate, then get back in it. Calling me an Uber just to get back in it. Hit the cash out like fate, I send it. Is it really worth the wait? I don't get it. If I didn't gravitate, taste that wet emoji.